Hey, beautiful ones. EJ Love here. Um, so I've been talking about doing this live stream for a little while. Yeah, we're going to be really exploring how to heal the wounds of abuse. So this is quite a bit of a serious, I guess, live stream, but I'm not going to take it too seriously. I'm going to be pretty vulnerable, I would say. And oh, we've got lots of people on. Please say hello. Let me know you're there. And I'm going to share a little bit of my story so you can just kind of get an idea of where I'm coming from, and then some of the beautiful tools and practices and healings that I've been through to get me where I am today, in a position of really embodying and feeling the love that I am, and being in a lot of self-reflection around that. So this is my journey, and I'm going to it's a long story, so I'm not going to go into everything, but I want to mention on this that I am going to be sharing my full story. I've been writing a book for a while now, and I've really committed to finishing that. And so I put a little link up here, which is tinyurl.com/heallovebook. And so that, if you sign up to that, that means that you'll get access to when the book first comes out, which will just be, and I'll do it on Amazon. It'll be self-published. And this is going to be my story in full, okay? And you're going to get a little bit of a sneak preview. But what I mostly want to share with you is just some of the process that's really helped me, because what really saddens me, and I've just done a post about this because I'm giving away a retreat, part of a 2-day, well, I do a 5-day retreat called the Integrated Women's Relationship Retreat, but a part of that is a 2-day workshop, which I've split into be able to come to just 2 days of it, which is called I Am Love. It's an I Am Love intensive healing retreat. And it's really around healing these wounds, the wounds of past lovers, and really coming into really feeling and being the love that you are, and really cutting through that conditioning that has really taught you that you're not love. So I really want to be able to give that to someone who has been in an abusive relationship, that has experienced some sort of abuse, and maybe has not had either the awareness or access, okay, whether that's financially or time-wise or anything, that they've not actually been able to explore healing themselves after being through these experiences. So I've been really so blessed in my life, and I'm super grateful that I have been able to spend intensive times healing myself. I spent a lot of time in Bali. I've done a lot of courses and programs and coaches and healers, and it's been incredible. And the healing never stops. It's not just like, oh, okay, I'm all healed now. It's a continuous process, and so now it's just kind of ingrained in me, and I just really self-reflect quite a lot when things come up for me, and I have all these beautiful tools and practices where I'm really able to self-reflect, say if I get triggered, and then I can go into a process around that and see, okay, well, where does this come from? What do I need to feel? What is it really about? All this sort of stuff, and be really conscious around that, and then be able to just feel a lot more love because of that, because I'm kind of going into the uncomfortable stuff. So I'll talk a bit more about that soon. But yeah, so if you know someone that's been experienced abuse, I would recommend to, tag them in this post, in this video, and share this video, because this awareness needs to get out there of the importance of healing. And one of the reasons that we need to do that is because if you don't heal yourself from an abusive experience, one of two things will happen. Either you will attract it again in another situation with, it could be a friend or a partner or, family, however that shows up for you. Or you can completely shut yourself off, okay, close your heart down and not be open to actually feeling love, and really feeling the love you are, but also feeling the love and connection with someone else. You'll be somewhat closed off, and you'll be functioning from these old wounds, okay? And so this is really what happened to me, okay? And I went through, actually had both things happen. I was closed off, and I was repeating the same patterns, hence why I've been in 3 abusive relationships, each one getting worse each time. And so What I also want to share with you is that, abuse is a lot of different things. It's not just like physical violence or sexual abuse. There's emotional abuse, there's financial abuse, there's spiritual abuse. There's lots of different types of abuse. And it's really when you're being like really dishonored and disrespected, and there's, so many different types. But yeah, I've experienced pretty much all of it. But, and there's all different extremities. So I think this is so common, and I think that a lot of us end up enabling it because we don't know any different. And this goes back to childhood. So what I really want to share here is that, sometimes we think when someone ends up in an abusive relationship that they must have had some sort of abuse as a child. Now, I actually wasn't abused as a child. I have beautiful parents and family, and I actually, I had a childhood that was quite loving. But what I do want to note here is this is what can happen, and this is not to make anyone bad or wrong. Okay, this is not blaming. It is that there seems to be this association particularly with a lot of women, and obviously men experience abuse as well, is that this association that love and abuse are the same thing. Okay, so if you've had some sort of situation where, and I'm going to give you an example, where, let's say for example, so I used to get smacked, even though that isn't, maybe it happened 3 or 4 times in my life as a child, but even though technically now it would be considered somewhat abusive, but it technically wasn't considered back in that day. That was quite normal. Like your kid did something, you smacked the kid, right? So, but what would happen is that after you've been punished or smacked or whatever, and you cry and you get upset, then you get love. Often this is what happens. You'll be like, oh, come here, everything will be okay, and da-da-da. It's like, you've learned a lesson, it's fine. So you get all this love, and all this attention, okay? So starts this association that there's like a payoff, okay? So it's like what I've noticed in my past relationships, and a lot of women that stay in domestic violence relationships, is there's a payoff. And that payoff is that apology, that empathy, that I'm an idiot, I shouldn't have done that to you, you deserve better, I'm so sorry, and come and have a cuddle, and it'll be okay, and all this sort of stuff, and all this showering of love, okay? And the same thing happens, and then there's this association that love and abuse are the same thing. So then you go out and you seek unconsciously, completely unconsciously, this abuse because you think it's love, okay? So, as I said again, it's not to make parents bad or wrong, and we're always doing the best that we can with the own knowledge that we have, our own awareness. Obviously, there are people that do have actual disorders and things like that do behave like, sociopaths and narcissistic personality disorder, things like that. But we are, doing the best with the resources that we have at the time, the knowledge that we have at the time. We all have our own filters in our stories and reactions out of survival, and there's lots here to work with, right? And I'm going to go in depth with this in my book, and I do it in my I Am Love program and my 2-day. We go a lot into depth of how this all works and how it plays out, and understanding all of that and rewiring all of that. So, yeah, so basically I just wanted to address that first, and I think, so my point here is that abuse can happen to anyone, okay? You don't have to have experienced it when you were younger. It's so common, and we're not really talking about it enough, and it's just, it just keeps happening, and it really saddens me, because I know that once you do the healing, you will not allow yourself to go into that situation again. You will have solid boundaries. You will know your boundaries. You'll have healthy boundaries. You'll know your red flags, and you'll know your patterns. So, and you'll rewire yourself so you won't attract that again, okay? So it's really important. Like, it just won't be in your space. Like, this stuff is just not in my space anymore, where I was so blindsided and I kept attracting it, and it would start off all great and fine, but then it would turn into abuse, and I'd be like, I don't understand why I keep attracting this, and I'm a good person, and why does this happen to me? And I just, yeah, didn't really get it. And then until I did this work on myself and really healed myself, it all became really clear. So what happened for me is when I was 17, I got into a relationship, and it automatically started with him kind of ignoring me, and I chased him, right? So looking back now, I'm like, okay, that's a bit of a red flag, right? But I was desperately seeking to be wanted and to be loved, and my parents had divorced, and I was going through this like my whole world had just kind of fallen to pieces, and I was trying to create this whole new world, and I thought that a man would really help me with that. And it was a bit of a rebellious phase, and I ended up with the bad boy, right? He smoked drugs and gambled and drank. He was a bit older than me. Actually, I was 16 at the time. And then when I was 17, I married him. Obviously, he ignored me long enough stopped ignoring me long enough for us to get married. But what happened was eventually, we fell in love. I say that with inverted commas because really I believe it was, more of a lusting, having chemicals going on, and so, which people often mistake for love when you just kind of caught up in wounds, okay, which I talk about the wound mate, and this is also something I go into more in depth about in my program, but understanding the difference between what a soulmate feels like and what a wound mate feels like. And so eventually what happened is it started off when I look back, it was already emotionally abusive with ignoring someone and is a form of emotional abuse. And so it was always me kind of chasing, and then, would be out walking down the street and he'd just turn around and he'd tell me to piss off. And I'd be like, what? I don't know what's going on. And then he'd go off and gamble, smoke drugs or whatever. And then there were other women involved, and then I had these wounds created around betrayal. So there was a lot of deceit and a lot of lying, and eventually the physical abuse started, okay? And it wasn't very, what I would call extreme. It would just be I'd go round and I'd bring him lunch, and then he'd pick me up and throw me out the door, physically pick me up and throw me out the door. And then eventually what happened was eventually it got worse, and then we were just triggering each other, and it just got to this point where I'd had enough. I kept going back so many times that I just knew. Yeah, actually, it was the day that my parents found out I got married behind their back. So what I did is I had forged my mum's signature on the marriage license, because if you're under 18, you're not supposed to get married without your parents. So it was total rebellious, and my parents didn't like him, and so yeah, it's a pretty funny story. But anyway, so I kind of was not disowned from the family, but I'd kind of rebelled from the family and was doing my own thing, and then going through this emotional roller coaster with this guy of it was I want you, I don't want you, I want you, I don't want you, and then there was another woman involved, and it was just a mess. And so it got to this point where he told his mum that we got married, and then his mum, I came home one day after there'd been some violence in public, and I came home and my mum called his mum, and then his mum told my mum, and my mum was pretty disappointed to find out that I had actually married him behind her back. We laugh about it now though. So yeah, and then so that was that, and then after a couple of years, I've just finally because I kept going back so many times when I knew it wasn't healthy, and it was just constantly feeling rejected, constantly feeling abandoned, ignored, unwanted. And then 2 ways I could always get him back was money and sex. Okay, so this is where I started to associate sex with my self-worth and money with self-worth. Okay, if I always had provided sex, and if I always provided money and could support the other person, then I would be worthy. Okay, then I would be lovable. Okay, this is the start of the programming that would start happening there. And then I started to numb my life completely, not knowing that I was numbing my life, but I started to date other men, and I'd moved to Australia. I decided that I needed to be pretty and skinny to be loved, so I started to not hardly eat anything, and then realized that my mum was going to suss out that I wasn't eating much, so then I became bulimic, And then I felt a lot of shame about that. And then I moved to Australia where my dad now lived. And so I then started just going out partying all the time, sleeping with lots of different guys, not giving a shit about them, just like feeling like I was using them and they weren't losing me. Hey, oh hey everyone, I've just been like ignoring you guys. Sorry, I'm just like so in my story right now, and I know I get really distracted if I don't actually if I keep, see, I'm already distracted. I'm like, what was I saying? If I keep replying to your comments. So I am seeing you all on there. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just kind of entrenched in my story right now. So I went on this wild rampage of just lots of, having lots of one-night stands and drinking lots and party drugs and pretty crazy. And then a couple of years later, and then I met this guy and we became friends for a while, and then eventually, started to have romantic feelings there. And then he was a bit of a wild party boy, into drugs, and bit of a, it wasn't so much the bad boy, he was more like the charismatic one that, all the girls like loved, and he was really friendly, and and so things moved really quickly, like, and this is a pattern too, it was like things happening really fast, even though we've been friends for a long time. As soon as we realized we had like feelings for each other, like I'd moved into his house in like 2 weeks, within 2 weeks, because I was always staying there, right? And then he lost his job, and then I was supporting him just like the one before, and so and then we're partying all the time, and then he'd drink quite a bit, and he would basically start to get really upset and triggered when he was drinking, and then I would shut down and I'd just like not want a part of it, and then that would make him even more triggered, and then he started breaking my stuff and threatening to commit suicide, and just at one point I tried to leave, and he'd cut himself and held his arm up to the window of the car and said, if you leave me, I'm going to tell everyone that you did this to me. And so there was times where I locked myself in the toilets, like really like scared and like wanting to call the police. Like I had to lock myself in there because I was afraid of him. And so and so that went on for like another 2 years, again, back and forth. And then what kept happening is that I'd leave, and then I'd see him out. It was just kind of it was up on the sunny coast, and everyone used to party at the same place. So we'd go out partying with my friends, and he would be there with another girl, and it was just like rip me to pieces, because I'd be like, no, you can't have him, like he's mine, kind of thing. So there's still those feelings there, and I just almost had to like take him back and be like, no, I don't want you to be with anyone else, even though it was because I had this massive wound around betrayal and not being wanted. It's like I didn't know this at the time, but it was that vicious cycle. Like it was the first week, it'd be like the weekend, there'd be like a massive fight, and then a few days later, and he'd come back and be like, I'm sorry, like all this sort of stuff, and you deserve better, rah, rah, rah. And then so I'd feel sorry for him, and then we'd get back together, and then we'd have another fight, and then I'd see him with a woman, and then it was just like the same thing over and over and over, like every week, to the point like it just like started affecting our friends, our mutual friends, and and then I just decided that I had to move states. Like I literally moved from the Sunshine Coast to Sydney to get away, because I knew if I kept staying there that I would never. And it was hard for like 6 months. It was really painful because he was automatically with another woman, like straight away, and that was like really painful for me to know that he just moved on with someone else. And maybe did he not care about me? Did he not? Did he not want me? Was I not wanted? Was it all lies? Was it, am I not lovable? Am I just another one? Am I not special? Do you not mean anything that he said? How can he be with someone else so quickly? All that sort of stuff. So, and then I started partying again, drugs, all this sort of stuff, dating. I didn't date so much, I more just like casual hookups, and eventually after 6 months I kind of got over thought I got over it, but really I just numbed it out. And this is the thing that kept happening, is like I just wasn't dealing with it. I was dealing with it by going out and partying, getting attention from other men, partying with my friends, drinking drugs to the point of like, I was like one of those people that was like, yep, I'm going to go hard. Like I'm going to like, I would get on it like and be the longest party till the very end, you know. So I was a pretty wild party girl, and eventually I moved to Melbourne, and I actually met another guy, and this is the other pattern that happened, is I would meet guys that were actually really decent, but I would completely emasculate them, unconsciously, not knowing that I was doing it. I would actually like hold myself back. I'd put a wall up and pretend like I didn't like them. Like when I pushed them away, I'd self-sabotage. Like somehow I'd like find something to get upset about them. Upset. Oh, there's like something falling out of the tree. I'd find something to completely self-sabotage the possibility of a connection. Because underneath all of that, I was really afraid to be seen. I was afraid of a deep connection, and I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel safe to fall in love. Okay, but wasn't aware of any of this, right, until like a while later. And so I just thought I was having fun, just playing around. It's all good. And you know, to the point some of my friends started to get worried about me, like, EJ, you know, you're partying a lot, and I was like, no, I'm fine. I'm just having fun. Like, don't tell me what to do. I was just in my own zone, and no one can tell me, right? And then, so it's just like lots of casual hookups, and then not like, even though I desperately like was wanting a relationship, like I just was totally like had this massive wall up and was not really even open to it, and just would just self-sabotage. And so, and it would be, if there was ever a sign that someone was going to, I would never get far enough. I even used to say, go 3 dates or 3 weeks was like the max, because, was the max, because after that, like, I'd either lose interest or I'd self-sabotage. I didn't know I was sabotaging, but I'd find something not to like about them, or which was really me. I was afraid they were going to reject me. I was like, oh my God, my feelings are getting involved, and I'd completely just withdraw my energy, and then they would withdraw their energy, and then I'd be like, oh look, see, I'm getting rejected, and then I'd be like, well, I'm going to reject you, so you can't reject me, something like that. Kind of went like that, and I'd almost pretend like I didn't have feelings for people, and yeah, it was like twisted, and this is where the game playing stuff comes in, right? So then I moved to Melbourne, and this is when I got into swinging. Yeah, let's numb myself even more. And what I've noticed about that was really, I was really trying to get noticed. I was really trying to feel wanted, and using my sexuality again as a sense of self-worth. If I'm sexual, I'm worthy, right? If I provide sex, then I'll be worthy. Okay, so that all was coming into play, all these belief systems, all this... I was being completely unloving to myself by partying all the time, and I was smoking, and I still had an eating disorder, and that lasted for 10 years, and so it was just like numbing, and it all went back down to when I was my 17-year-old self, and the choice that she made to numb her life after that abusive relationship. Okay, and on the surface it looked like I had my shit together. Yeah, I'm like, I've got these friends, and I'm partying, and I've got a good job. I always like worked in law firms or accounting firms, and I look on the surface did, but underneath, like, I was super like empty and longing for love. Okay, and trying to find that outside of myself, like every weekend, and then feeling empty and feeling like I was to wait till the next weekend, and then the next weekend, and then so and it was never going to happen. So it was just not wanting to feel all the pain and heartache from like, and there's a lot of childhood stuff there as well. Even though I had this beautiful childhood, this doesn't have to be anything massive that's happened. Okay, so and then you can carry on stuff from your parents as well, like stuff that they've been through is carried through as well, generational stuff. There's a lot of unwanted belief systems and they've been passed on, and there's so much, like, it's crazy as to what we can really take on in our belief systems and embody. So we have to completely rewire ourselves. It's full on work, but it's totally worth it. So yeah, so I said I wasn't going to take too long on this, but I'm still going, so I'm just going to keep rolling with it. We haven't even got to the healing part yet, but I'm making my point as I go. So I hope this is making sense. So yeah, so I was into swinging, and then I kept attracting these men, right? That, and when you read my book, when you read it, you're going to be like, because I'm going to be doing a chapter on each man, and you're going to be like, how can one woman go through so many like messy situations, but crazy relationships? It's interesting, but they all have their own little flavor. And then I met a guy who was a total con man. Like, really, like, wow. It's just, like, by the time we had finished, which was a whirlwind of, like, I don't even know what that was, but I'd been left with no job, no car, no home, basically. But I'm totally know why that happened, and I can totally see how I enabled all of that and allowed all of that and didn't see red flags and gave my power away and all this sort of stuff. So it's been really interesting to reflect on that. But it's a great story. It's a really cool story. So the full story of that's going to be in my book. But through that is how I actually got into the sex industry, through that connection, because he encouraged that and kind of put the idea in my head. And so I'm kind of grateful to him for that, because I wouldn't be where I am with all my amazing work that I do in the sexuality work that I do. So I try to always look at, the be in the space of gratitude these days. And so I'm really, really grateful to him for that, and he taught me a lot. And so, and then I met another one through my work, similar, kind of didn't lose everything, but I did end up devastated, basically. But he was a massive compulsive liar, making himself to be someone that he totally wasn't, like a whole persona, basically a whole new persona. And then as soon as I started to suss him out, that's when he kind of ditched me, and then I took it on and thought I was the one getting rejected, when really he just was afraid to be seen and to be busted, basically. And we were just kind of mirroring each other, really. Like, a lot of these men really just mirrored my own feelings of unwanted and rejection and all that sort of stuff. And then, okay, I'm not going to get, there's a few more after that. I'm not going to get, the same story, basically. Same, similar situation. Really similar. Just attracting these certain type of men that really kind of unhealthy men. I'm going to say the word unhealthy. Narcissistic, compulsive liars, con men. Those types. And I'm not here to make them bad or wrong at all. But I really I was the rescuer. I was going to rescue and help these men and fix them and all this sort of stuff. And ultimately I didn't feel worthy of a healthy man. That would be vulnerable for me, okay? And I would self-sabotage those ones. I've had healthy men come into my life, but I just totally self-sabotage. I wasn't attracted to them. Or it's like, why do you attract the asshole, attracted to the asshole when the nice guy is, this is one of the questions I get asked. I'm like, it's polarity. It's because you're magnetically polarized to certain types of men based on your belief systems and your wounds and how you're showing up, okay? And so we have to completely become integrated instead of polarized. And this is why I called my retreat the Integrated Women's Relationship Retreat, because we help you be integrated through healing those wounds and getting you back into balance with self and healthy relationship with self. And when you have that healthy relationship, this is when you can have a healthy relationship with someone else. Yeah. So and you attract that, and you're attracted to that. You're attracted to the healthy ones, not the narcissistic ones, for example. So it's been really interesting playing with that and exploring that and looking at those patterns. And so eventually I went through a spiritual awakening. Eventually, after I went through this one that was intense, I was like, holy shit, this is my twin flame kind of energy. And I got obsessed with this whole twin flame stuff, and I talk about this a little bit because I think a lot of it's bullshit, and we get caught up in these spiritual notions And really it's because we're not actually looking at the relationship we have with ourselves, and we're focused on someone else completing us. So I'm not going to get into that now, but I've done videos on that before, so you can feel free to flick through on my videos and you'll find stuff on that. So then I realized this person was too a con man and was with a lot of other women, and again, I was the rescuer, and it's just tried to control everything and out of safety and big stuff. And so when he, in my eyes, when I got rejected, when he ran away, at the time, I went to Bali and I went on a retreat, and that's when everything was like 5 years ago now, and I was like, holy shit, I see it. It was like I scratched the surface. Okay, like I started doing all the spiritual work, like meditation and yoga, and started to see my patterns and that sort of thing, and I started to get some understanding of where all this came from and why that I didn't even know that I was love, right? I was listening to Deepak Chopra on the plane on the way there. And I was like, oh my God, I'm love? Like, I'm love. Oh my God. Like, it was like this revelation. I was like, why? But love is outside of me. Like, I've been looking for love in a relationship, in a man. But yeah, it was... Yeah, Karen, totally it is. I'm so excited for you that you're coming and you're going. That's why we call it I Am Love, right? I was just like, oh, and everything else is like just telling me that I'm not love. It's all conditioning and it's bullshit. And I was born as love. Wow. And I was like, so all these things I'm doing, like smoking and bulimia and drugs, and I've been like abusing myself. And I've not been loving myself. So how can I have love if I'm not loving myself? How can I have a healthy relationship if I don't have a healthy relationship with myself? So it was all like really clear to me. So I went on a mission to do all the spiritual self-love work. And so within a week, I gave up. My eating disorder was healed overnight at that retreat. Like, never had an issue again. Gave up smoking. 13 years I smoked for. Then and there. Stopped binge drinking, so I just couldn't even drink properly anymore. I'd go out and have 2 drinks, I'd be like, whoa, I couldn't even drink anymore. Like, it just didn't have the same effect on me. I couldn't bring myself to have a cigarette. Like, it just went from like, ooh, like, that's gross. Like, I just couldn't do it. So all the things, the more work I did on myself, the more I just couldn't do. It just like, I was rejecting the things that weren't loving, right? Because the more love I became and felt in myself, the more I rewired myself, the more that I just couldn't do those things. And so it's like my body just wouldn't let me. And also gave up drugs as well. I think I maybe had drugs once after that. And I was just like, I was like, oh, one time, yeah, like I remember I actually got sick, and my body was like, no, this is not for you anymore. And so yeah, and I remember saying to myself, I don't think I'll ever not party. Like, how can you not ever not party? Now I'm like, it would be quite easy. So went on this real spiritual journey, and I wrote a book, a 70,000 word book, and then came back from Bali after writing this book, and I was up to chapter 18, which was all about soulmates. Okay, it's all about twin flames and soulmates, chapter 18. And I have very different beliefs now this is 3 years ago now. I have very different beliefs now about those soulmates and twin flames than I did when I wrote this book, okay? And I'll tell you why in a minute. It's because after chapter 18, which is about soulmates, I met a man. Okay, and so here I was plodding along, like, spiritual meditation and yoga, and I'm like doing all this stuff, and I'm like teaching the steps to self-love in my work, and still working in the sex industry, and still like trying to actually I had a relationship in that time with a healthy man actually, but I still was closed off, okay? And there was something like I just couldn't quite love him. Like, I couldn't quite get there. It was just like this. I was like, why can't I love him? Like, I couldn't get there. And so I kind of settled as well when I knew that it wasn't quite right for me. But I thought, I've done all this work on myself. And so, yeah, but that, we ended up splitting up, and I wasn't even devastated about that. I was like, okay, yep, that's cool, it's fine. Like, I was kind of happy, I was kind of like relieved about it, and I could, but I did lose myself a little bit, and this is a pattern I had of losing myself in a relationship. Who else has lost themselves in relationships? Hey, beautiful ladies. This is very common for women. We give our power away, we put all our attention on the other person, and looking after them and nurturing them and helping them, and want to spend all our time with them, and then we're like, where did I go? And then we go and blame them and go, you're not supporting me. I need to do stuff for me, right? So that had been a big pattern of mine as well, getting caught up in the bubble, in the happy chemicals, which is really easy to do. So this is where boundaries come in, right? So, yeah, so I'd been split up from him for about, I guess, 9 months. And I went and wrote the book after that relationship, okay? So I'm just trying to get the timing right here. So then I decided to go to Bali and write this book, okay? So it got up to chapter 18. I'd got up to as far as having gone through that relationship and realizing that I decided that he was a karmic soulmate that had come back to show me all these things. Now, it was after that relationship, the lesson from that relationship was around sexual healing, okay? Because I found that I was so disconnected from my sex drive that I didn't even want to have sex with him. So this is when I started to explore Tantra and sexual healing. So I'm super grateful for that experience with him, because this is when I started to get into Tantra, and after that relationship, and started to heal myself on a sexual level first. And then I started to bring that into my clients. It's like, how can I bring the work I was doing in the sex industry together with my spiritual healing work? And then I blended that, and this is it when the Tantra massage started, and it has so much evolved from there since then, massively. Okay, so then I think it was about, as I said, 9 months later, and then I came back from Bali, and it was maybe a 3-week, I'm putting all this stuff into like calling in the one, and then I hadn't quite finished this book, and this guy comes in, and I was like, oh my God, manifested him. Like, he's exactly everything. Like, and then I'd seen all these psychics, and there was exactly everything the psychics had said, and all this sort of stuff. And yeah, he was just, and I was really attracted to him. And he was like, oh my God, you're my twin flame. And I was like, mm-hmm. And I just kind of went with it. Like, I was like, well, you know what? Like, I want to see where this connection goes. I want to see where it goes. And now that I look back, there are so many red flags. Like, I'm really clear on my red flags and my boundaries and my deal breakers now. Okay, and I gave my power away. Started spending all my time with him. We got together very quickly. He was like, the first night he met me, he's like, I want to be with you, right? Yet he was still involved with his ex. But I didn't know everything either. Like, he'd told me some lies about her, and it was just messy, right? So, yeah, it was an interesting situation looking back now when you can see everything so clear. But I attracted that because I had more wounds. I had to go deeper. That there was more, right? So that relationship, and I'm not going to get massively into this because this is a really long story, this one, and I've talked about this quite a bit. We were together for 9 months, and it was freaking intense. Like, it was like my 10 years of my fucked up relationships all rolled into one. It was like there to show me my shit. Like, it was there to show me like my deepest shit. And I was getting triggered, and I was getting angry, and I was like not able to work properly. I wasn't able to function. I was like trying to make everything work. I was like, he was like, I was being abused physically, like eventually got quite physical, like all hours of the night, like just had like phones smashed, laptops smashed, like shit broken, like I couldn't work properly because I like had to keep getting things fixed, and then I had to like try and get money like together to like, and then I had to, it was just messy, and then I'd ask him to leave, and then he would then go to another woman. And so I still had this wounding around other women, and every time he went to this other woman, and he knew this as well, like that it triggered me because I'd shared like all this, really being vulnerable with him about my wounds and stuff, and He knew that if he went to her, that I always take him back, because it was just so painful. Um, it's like I had to prove that I was still wanted, that I was still lovable. So it's been like really, I think I need to do like I'm looking at doing a live stream and some sort of training around the other woman wound, because I know a lot of us have those wounds, and how painful that can be when we do get, like, someone does leave us for another woman, and where that might come from, and there's so much to it. Like, I could get into that for a while, but it's, it's a lot of betrayal there. And so yeah, this relationship was super, super messy. But the main thing was that, like, I felt so much shame. Like, I was like, I'm supposed to be, like, conscious and, like, about self-love and spirituality, and, like, he claimed to be quite spiritual too, and he was in his own way. But it was like, I can't tell anyone, because I'm supposed to be, be showing myself to be someone who is self-loving, and this relationship isn't self-loving. Like, someone who loved themselves would not be in an abusive relationship, right? So eventually, after, like, so much on and off, and it just, like, I knew for a long time that I just had to leave, and I knew I had to heal these wounds. So eventually, when I left for the last time, and I remember sitting in that car, and I rang my best friend, and she's probably going to watch this. She's beautiful. I love her so much. I rang her, and I was like crying, and I was just like, this is it. Like, my car was packed up. I was ready to go. I'd been planning this. I planned it so I had to fly away, and I'd fly to Melbourne, and I was actually planned to go on a retreat. And I put the money down. I put like $2,000 into this retreat, and if I didn't go, I was not going to get that money back. So I knew that this was it, right? So I called her, and I wanted to go back in, and I wanted to fix things. I was like, I want to go back in, and I want to sort it out, and everyone says, like, when you see women in abusive situations, they're like, why don't you just leave? Like, there's so much to that. Like, you don't understand what it's like to be in that situation. Like, there's, like, happy chemicals, there's addictions, there's wounds, there's, dependency. There's just so many things playing out, and you're not thinking clearly either. Like, and you've become so wrapped up in this and dependent and scared to be alone, and, like, or feeling not wanted and not lovable and all this stuff, that you stay in it, because it just seems like it seems easier, but it's not. And it's the fear of the unknown. Like, what am I going to be? What's it going to be like? Am I ever going to have love again? Like, I had this belief system, like, maybe I just don't do healthy relationships. Maybe I just can't be in a healthy relationship. Maybe that's just not for me. That's literally what I remember having that thought. I'm like, how do people have healthy relationships? Like, I don't understand. Like, do people, like, this must be true for everyone. Like, I thought, like, how do people manage their triggers, and how do they manage this stuff? I don't understand. So I just was like, I totally get what it's like. It's so hard to leave, and it's like, people will tell you, why don't you just leave? It's like, it's so much more than that. And until you actually, what you have to do is you have to do the healing. You have to heal these wounds. And this is what had worked for me. Okay, so I rang my friend, and we'd be doing some healing work over the time that I'd been with him. And he was even doing the healing work, right? He was doing a lot of healing on himself, but it's too far gone by that stage. Like, it was just, and he was quite narcissistic. So it was just, I was trying to be the healer as well. So, like, you need to do this to heal yourself. That doesn't work either, by the way. I was still trying to be the rescuer and the healer, and it was just never going to work. And so, so I rang her, I was sitting in the car, and I'm just like, there's something there, and I can't work out what it is. Like, I want to go back in, and I don't understand why, because I know, like, the adult me is like, no. The mature me is like, no, you don't, this is not healthy. And then this little girl inside of me is like, but I want to be loved, and I want to be wanted, and if I go in there and we fix things, it'll be okay, and I'll be loved again. And it's like this love and abuse stuff. So this is where the love and abuse stuff comes back. It's like this association of, like, I know if we fix things, then he'll love me again, and he'll want me, and he won't go to the other woman. So this kind of thing. And so I yeah, so I just sat with her, and we did this process. She talked me through it, and we just dig deeper and deeper. She coached me through it, and I was like, underneath all of that was just this like massive wound of not being wanted. Like, I'm not wanted. And so we kind of rewired that, we processed it, and I just cried, and I sat in this car and I cried and I cried and I, because I was like, I can't not go away and go to this retreat. I've got to, and I was so afraid that I was just going to be so devastated, like, and not having him in my life, because it was like these beautiful moments of happiness and joy, but then there's like, it was like massive highs and lows, like awful, fucked up, abusive, like, oh, it was awful. Like, it was like, I couldn't even imagine that I could ever go through something like that. And yeah, I mean, I'll tell the story further in my book, and I'm sure I'll share more on this. But mostly it was, then you got the massive high, like the loved upness. Like, we had some of the most romantic moments that I've ever experienced in my life. Okay, like, just be at the beach and we'd be cuddling and we explored tantra and like all these things that we explored together, and we'd go to meditation and we'd do all these spiritual things and we'd do all that. But then there's this other side of abuse. Like, it's like totally like really like massive duality, massive extremity, polarity stuff. And it was all just these woundings, and we were trying to like both heal ourselves, and then just there was so much needs that weren't being met, right? So this is where all the grounding work needed to come in, and so yeah, so we went through this process with her, and then I left, and I never went back. You know, I mean, it tempted me a couple of times. I thought about it, and then, you know, and then he'd be like, oh, I'm with this other woman now, and I was like, didn't affect me as much because we'd done this process around that I'm not wanted, and I understood that it was like, it felt like that when he was going to her, he wasn't wanting me. And I could take him back any time and prove, yes, you did want me, okay? And so it was just this wounding that was keeping me in this toxic situation. And then I went to this retreat. Actually, it was a tantra, BDSM tantra. So it was good because I got to like get some anger out in this BDSM thing. I mean, I'm not really, I wouldn't say BDSM is my thing really, but it was interesting to explore that. So, which is important. So this is the first thing that you have to do. Okay, right. Which leads me to my point of the first thing that you have to do once you have, instead of going in what I did for 10 years and numbed myself, right? You have to feel it all, right? Yeah, totally, of course. We've all got these wounds, right? Like, whether it's from abuse or we've all got wounds, some sort of wounding, okay? And yeah, of course, it's totally okay for you to mention, absolutely. And so it's just, you know, once you kind of got self-awareness of them, you can be like aware of when are you functioning from that wounding, okay? And what do I need to feel and heal here? What do I need to look at? Okay, what do I need to process? So the first thing you have to do is, you know what? Get fucking pissed off, because you know what? After that, he blamed me. He was like, you did this and you did that and rah, rah, rah. And I was like, and made me out to be this horrible person. And I was like, how fucking dare you make out that you're the like good one in this? And when you were the one that was abusing me, like, I was like, fuck you, basically. I was so like, I had to allow myself to get really pissed off and angry, because you know what? Like, I had been shut down and suppressed during that time, because every time I got upset or angry, he would use it against me. Like, if you leave me, I'm going to, like, he record me getting like crying and screaming, record it. And he'd be like, if you leave me, I'm going to put this on Facebook, okay? If you leave me, I'm going to blast all over Facebook that you've worked as an escort. Like, this is the sort of stuff, like the manipulation. So I kind of had to keep my mouth shut all the time, and I couldn't express myself on social media. Like, you guys see me, right? How much I'm like all over social media, like writing and expressing. If you knew me for that period of time, and if you even look back, if you look back on my posts, you'd be like, I'm not even there. Like, I stopped even going onto social media, and I had to even like hide messages of like reaching out for help from people, in case he found them, because that would lead to more abuse. Okay, if he found that I'd been like reaching out and telling people about what was going on, like that would not be good, right? So that would lead to more abuse. So I had to like do some things in secret, and then of course I was the liar. Like if he found out stuff, and you know, I ended up lying about stuff as well, because like mostly for safety. Like I just lied to keep myself safe, right? Not to deceive or anything like that, but it's just more like I was afraid that if I told him certain stuff, and you know, he'd go back to things like my emails from years ago and make them mean something about me now, and it was just like about guys that I was friends with and make up stories, and it was crazy. Like it was just crazy. But anyway, so yeah, and I you know, the thing is, like, I'm telling this from a bit more of a victimized perspective, but I'm totally empowered now. Like, I've done, like, a lot of processing, and this is part of the healing the wounds of abuse, is you have to get to a place of empowerment, and I see my part in it. I see why I attracted it. I see all of that now, okay? And until you can really look at your part there, you know, you're not going to be an awareness going into next relationships, okay, or how you're showing up. But the first thing, before you go into empowerment, you have to feel all your shit, right? You have to feel the anger and the pissed offness and the resentment, or the blame, everything, and like, allow yourself to get fucking angry at that person, right? And not project it onto them. Hopefully you're actually not in contact, and this is what I had to cut contact. And so what you need to do is you've got to feel it. And fortunately, I had all these tools that I was able to use, but I couldn't use them while I was with him. It was, really difficult, but I just needed this time for me. And so I have all these beautiful, and I teach this aspecting process that I'm going to be doing at my I Am Love retreat here next week, and I teach it in my program as well. It's this really beautiful emotional healing practice which shifts things. It's a shamanic process, and it really shifts things on a massive level. So I did that a few times with him, and it was like profound. It was amazing, and it really just shifted things for me massively, and I let out so much of the anger that had been sitting inside me. And it wasn't, but the thing is, it wasn't just the anger from that relationship, it was the one before that, and before that, and before that, and at myself as well, and myself for allowing myself to be in this situation. Like, I was like, how did somebody like me end up in an abusive relationship? Like, I'm supposed to be like switched on and smart and like I got my shit together, right? How somebody like me end up like this? So I was like angry at myself for allowing that to happen. So I had to, really practice a lot of self-compassion with that. And then the next thing I had to really do is to just, as I said, self-compassion is really important. But I had to look at my patterns, like, okay, where has this happened before? Because this is a rewounding. This wasn't a whole new thing that had never happened before. This was a rewounding, right? It had happened a number of times before. So I had to look at, where is this coming from, okay? And I had to go back to the source, okay? You have to look at the source of it, okay? And look at healing it at the source level, okay? You have to go right back, and I had to go back to my ex-husband effectively and look at what happened there, where I gave my power away, okay? Where did I not see the red flags? How were, what were the belief systems that were created about not being wanted, about not being pretty enough, around not being skinny enough, around, only being worthy if I provided sex and money, all this sort of stuff. Like, I had to look at all of that and start rewiring my belief systems, okay? And then to step into my power, I had to own my shit, okay? I had to own my part in all of it, okay? I had to own all the places where I'd self-abandoned, where I'd overgiven, where I'd been the rescuer, okay? Where, even where I had lied, okay, even if it was out of safety, okay, what was my part in this, okay? What was the impact that the things I had done had on that person, okay? Because I'm not the angel in this. It's not like, I'm all angelic and did nothing wrong and it's all them. It's like, actually, this is a co-creation, okay? We came together based on wounds, and we triggered the shit out of each other, and to show us what we need to heal, right? And I choose to heal after it. I refuse to numb it again and end up in the same situation or close myself off, right? So I had to really, really go into seeing my shit, and it wasn't pretty, right? Some of it was like, and I had to see how this was being reflected in the relationship to myself. Okay, where was I abusing myself? Okay, where was I rejecting myself? Okay, where was I not wanting parts of myself? Okay, where was I not loving myself? All that sort of stuff, because this person was simply a reflection of the relationship I had with myself. Okay, so I really had to make commitments to myself to show up differently, and decided to have all these practices to help me with that. So then I just started looking at the belief systems and starting to rewire those, and then really fully stepping into more into self-love. But this time, you know, before I'd been doing a lot of spiritual work, a lot of spiritual practices, and this time was really grounded, okay? And so this is what I'm really, really big on teaching these days. It's like, yes, I love spiritual woo-woo stuff. I love it. But you have to ground it in here and now in human form, right? And this is done through a lot of conscious communication practices. This is where a lot of my work is like practices that basically are grounded and can be used with anyone in any relationship, no matter where they're at, what their experiences is, whether they're spiritual or not. Like it's yeah, so you can use these in all areas of your life, in all relationships. So this is a lot of the work that I've done with the Love Coach Academy, who are just amazing and have changed my world and my relationships, and I'm so blessed that I get to pass this work on to my clients, and it works. It's amazing. It's so amazing. Like really, I just can't even describe how amazing it is. And so a lot of the self-love for me now is self-empathy and self-compassion, really healing shame, and to then really step into vulnerability. Yeah, oh, thanks, Al. My accent, awesome. I love having an accent. To really step into vulnerability, okay? I've made a commitment myself to be really vulnerable. So if you notice a lot of my posts, you'll see I'm pretty open and vulnerable. But I also mean in my relationships that I have, I'm like really trying to be quite open about my feelings. I've gone from being really super closed off to like, you know, sort of freezing myself or running away or rejecting like the person before they could reject me, this sort of stuff. Now I'm like, okay, this is what's coming up for me, this is how I'm feeling, and it's amazing what shows up, and I attract all these beautiful people into my life, and lots of beautiful men that are just so happy to receive me and honor me and respect me, and like more than I could have ever even imagined was possible, right? So I'm so blessed with that. And I had to get really clear on my truth, okay, and what's true for me, and living from my truth, and getting connected to my own needs, because what happened is that I was always putting everyone else's needs before my own, like particularly in a relationship. I would give my power away by putting the other person's needs before mine, and trying to please them and make them happy, and losing myself. So I was like, I had to get really clear, like on a daily basis, what do I need right now? And learning to say no, and having healthy boundaries, like boundaries. Wow. Boundaries, learning my boundaries was like massive. I was like, boundaries? I can have boundaries, and we're not just like one person and all meshed up, and now I'm them and now I'm me, and like we share everything together. Like I'm my own person. This is kind of how it was, right? So boundaries is big. We need to have boundaries. So, and again, I really am grounded in that. Really looking at emotional, spiritual, energetic boundaries in all relationships, in all areas of life. So this is basically the gist of it is emotional healing. You have to feel all the shit, okay? And you have to learn some really beautiful conscious practices and safe containers to do this, okay? And this is why it's good to have support people like myself, other healers and coaches or retreats or programs that are going to support you and create safe containers to do this. And the beauty of it is that you get supported, and you get compassion, and you get empathy. And this heals your shame, and especially if you've been in some sort of abusive situation, there's so much like shame there, like can't believe I allowed myself to to go through this, or my kids to be in that, and all this sort of stuff. So that's massive. And shame is like the worst emotion we can feel. It's the lowest vibration. So receiving empathy is heal shame, right? So that's massive. So I'm very big on holding a very empathetic, compassionate space for people whilst having boundaries, of course. And so then, you have to really look at your patterns, okay? Because as soon as you know your patterns, you come into awareness, you're like, oh, wow, I know exactly when I'm going into fixing and going into rescuing, and I'm going to pull myself back because I know that's what I'm doing. And you have to kind of, sometimes you do have to pull yourself up on it. But because you've been doing it for so long, right? When am I giving my power away? When am I trying to prove my worth? Okay, and stepping back, okay? Shifting those beliefs, rewiring those belief systems. There's a lot of different practices for that as well. And then obviously cultivating the skills to live inside this true being that you are, that is love. Okay, like if you are showing up as love in the world, which is your truth, because you are love and you're born of love, and all this other crap around you isn't real, that's telling you that you're not love, basically. So if you are love, how do you show up in the world? What do you need to learn? What do you need to cultivate to show up and be love? Because you're not going to attract the same things. And again, this is how I said earlier about the love and abuse. Earlier was that that's another rewiring. We rewire the belief system that love and abuse are the same thing. You kind of have to like separate it and rewire that, okay? So, hi new people. I see lots of people coming and going on here, which is great. I've been talking for forever. I think this is my longest live stream ever, but as you can tell, it's something I'm super passionate about. So, and then this is when, looking at what do you need to cultivate. And as I said before, there's a lot of beautiful spiritual and soul connection work to be done around that, but also really grounded work around communication, like communicating your truth to people and you're being vulnerable, right? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I get it. It's, thank you for sharing that. Thank you. I'm at the Malada Sanctuary, Lee. Lily, this is where I'm running my retreat next week. It's so beautiful. I just did it's really big. You can't really see here. I'm kind of in a little space here. There's a pool. Yeah. One of the things we're going to be doing, they have a fire pit here, and we're going to be like burning all the stuff from all those abusive relationships or people that didn't honor us, and getting rid of it, clearing it in a beautiful ritual, completion ritual, cutting all ties, vows, agreements, contracts, anything. So I think that's about it. I think that's mainly this. Like I kind of got it down to 5 key processes. But so next week I'm doing my 2-day I Am Love Healing Intensive, which is basically everything I've just gone through. Like we're doing that intensively over 2 days. I also do it in a 7-week online program. So as I said before, I'm going to gift someone the 2 days, and I'm also going to gift 2 online programs. And if you go down, you'll see that I've done a post, and you'll see the picture that says I'm a survivor. You need to follow the instructions on there if you really want to be able to be here or to do the online program if you're not around the area here on the Gold Coast. And so I really encourage you to start looking at some of this stuff. And even I thought I'd done healing. Like I thought I'd done so much healing work on myself and that I would not attract, any unhealthy relationship again. And then I attracted like the most unhealthy of them all. But that needed to happen, okay, because I needed to go deeper, and I'm totally grateful and for that. And this is the thing, is like I'm in a space of complete gratitude. Like I talk from a victimized perspective only to resonate, right? Because I don't see these men as they did this to me. Like it's not and I'm like a victim in this. I am a survivor. and I am empowered. But, you know, and some people, this is the thing I want to also say here, it's like, oh yeah, they're like, I'm a survivor, but they're actually gone and numbed. They're like, I'm such a strong, independent woman, right? And I'm a survivor, and I see this, but they've completely disconnected and numbed, and they're not actually open to having another relationship, really, or they can have the same thing happen again, or this stuff. They kind of close themselves out, but because they're kind of trying to be tough, really trying to be tough. Yeah, totally. We think, oh yeah, I'm there, I'm healed. I'm like, so the great thing is this is what I do. We do the emotional healing work. Then we take this really grounded practices to integrate it and ground it in for the rest of your life. So when this shit keeps showing up, if it does, I mean, like, it's highly unlikely once you do the emotional healing work and the rewiring that the same situation is going to show up. But if like say you get triggered, you have these tools to go, oh, hang on a minute, I've been triggered. I'm going to use this practice to manage that and do a little bit of healing around that sort of thing. Or I'm going to use this practice to go and have this really beautiful conversation with this person to clear this thing that's going on, right? Rather than going into, I'm just going to like not talk to that person again, and because they're a dick, and I'm not going to deal with that. And really, I'm just going to shut myself down because I'm afraid to be vulnerable, be seen, and blah blah blah. Basically, so it takes a lot of vulnerability. But once you've got the frameworks, it's very easeful to start using them. Like it's amazing the conversations. Like I notice myself sometimes going into like something will happen, and maybe feel a little bit of shame about it, and I might go, okay, I'm just not going to talk to that person anymore. Also maybe something that I've done, and I'm like, oh, they're a dick. And then I know that I've just got a little bit triggered. I've made a story. I've gone into something, and I'll be like, okay, what's going on here? And then I'll go and own it. I'll be like, okay, look, this is what came up for me when I said this, or when you did this. This is what's going on for me, and brought up this, but I really want this, and I would like to create this possibility of us having this, instead of going into the old ways of being, which might be shut down and numb, basically. So, but, you know, once you have the tools and the frameworks for that, it's really easy, because you just pick up the piece of paper, because it's all, well, actually it's all in my program, and I give everyone that comes to my workshops the actual online versions of everything, and they get all these templates and tools, and that will all use for the rest of their lives to manage all their relationships. It's amazing. So it's amazing how much you just have become so conscious about everything that shows up in your world, and you can go and you process it all, which is amazing. It's so cool. So now where I'm at now, as you can see, I'm fully expressive and vulnerable, and I treat myself very lovingly, and I attract amazing people into my life, and relationships and men. And I just had a conversation with one of my friends this morning, and she was like, these beautiful men just keep showing up in your life. And I'm like, I know, and it's amazing. And I don't even go out looking for it. It just kind of shows up for me, and it's because of all this work I've done on myself. So it's cool. I just love it. I just love it so much, and it's just so different to what I've been through. Such a different space, right? And I'm only human too. I still have my moments, but I know how to process them, and so yeah. So anyway, what I wanted to say is that if you are, have experienced some sort of abuse, my heart goes out to you. I feel a lot of compassion, and I really want to be able to share my full story with everyone, and more deeply take you through this work in my book, and obviously have my programs and my workshops. If anyone feels drawn to them, please feel free just to PM me, so I can give you some more info on that, because I'd love to be able to support you. This work is just so vital. I called it I Am Love, because I want everyone to be able to feel that the love that they are, and know that they are that. So much love to you all. And if anyone has any questions, because I've been terrible at reading all your comments today, which it's probably a good thing, because I've did not get too distracted. My eyes are a really crazy colour at the moment. Look at them. They're a bit red actually, because it probably looks like I've been crying, but I haven't. But it's to do with my eyelashes. I'm just looking through this. Oh, thanks, Jill. How are you? How is Perth? I'm coming there. I'm all booked to come there in May, actually. maybe I should run a workshop there. But got to get my book finished first. That's priority. Yeah, beautiful. Awesome. Any questions, just let me know so I can answer them. If you are already in my I Am Love tribe, I'm doing a Q&A tonight as well, which reminds me I'm going to have to go plan that. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. I'm just reading your comments back. I'm so grateful to everyone that's jumped on over this time, because I know this is a really long live stream. There was a lot to get through. Yeah, so yeah, if anyone just has any questions, feel free to let me know. Otherwise, you can just PM me, and yeah, if any of my story resonated, let me know. I know I didn't go into actually much detail of the actual what I've experienced so much physically and that sort of thing, or yeah, so much there, but that will all come in the book. That's going to be very insightful. All right, I'm going to go now. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. So beautiful to have you here, and please feel free to share this if you know there's other people out there that need some healing and need to know this information. So yeah, just allow yourself. You just got to feel it. You've got to know your boundaries. You've got to look at your belief systems. You've got to own your part in it. And you know, if you need support in that, please let me know, because I'm here for you. And much love to you all. Okay, bye.